On this episode of New Mexico Frontiers, one of the most storied and important filming locations in New Mexico is now under new ownership, ready to welcome the next generation of filmmakers and event planners. Plus, we're meeting an Albuquerque Academy senior who transformed tragedy into an opportunity to help his peers struggling with mental health issues. And the fires in Southern California have sounded the alarm on urgent solutions for preventive measures. How a New Mexico-based startup is employing VR to map prescribed burns next on New Mexico Frontiers.
This is New Mexico Frontiers. Presented by Veris Research.
Hello and welcome to New Mexico Frontiers. I'm Chad Brummett. The Southern California wildfires have many asking what could have been done to prevent the disaster. One startup company in Santa Fe working with Los Alamos National Labs believes that they may have the answer. And it's a mix of more burns and virtual reality.
In April of 2022, the largest wildfire in the state's history erupted in northern New Mexico. The Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire would ultimately destroy nearly 342,000 acres and more than 900 structures, severely impacting residents, businesses, and communities. Quite possibly the most frustrating component to this incident is the fact that the Hermit's Peak wildfire first started as a controlled burn. The incident begs the question, could the disaster have been prevented? The answer is what New Mexico startup SciVista is now chasing.
Yes, you could point to Hermit's Peak as one thing, but what the real need for in this country is this. We've spent over 100 years not doing prescribed burns. So we have a tinderbox of forests in this country ready to be ignited.
Crews on the ground that day did follow procedures and policies. There were a lot of missteps leading up to it.
Hermit's Peak is a prime example of what can happen if just one variable to a prescribed burn goes awry. SciVista's new product, FireVista, hopes to equip firefighters and forestry departments with a dynamic visualization of how the prescribed burn will actually go.
So I'm setting up an actual fire line, planning out a fire burn in a specific area. Then it shows me the fire propagation of what would happen if these conditions existed and if all the fuels that are there are actually there in real life. This is what it should be expected that happens.
Using data compiled by Los Alamos National Labs QuickFire, a program with 30 years of scientific collection behind it, FireVista can create a virtual environment for multiple users to test what will happen during a prescribed burn before a single drip torch is ignited.
We have not just immersive technologies where you're in virtual reality looking at 3D data, 3D file types, all in an environment that you can basically reach out, grab your data, stretch out the data, rotate the data, but you can do it collaboratively. So you can connect with multiple users in this one environment. So now science is not locked to a single user. You can collaborate with people all around the world, looking at data, making decisions about data, and coming together.
Thomas Vaz, Chief Operations Officer for SciVista, says that multiple variables, including terrain, fuel type, underbrush, atmosphere, wind conditions, and more, can be plugged into the program or omitted, giving a much more accurate picture of how the prescribed burn will behave. This will equip planners with the information they need to proceed, alter, or postpone a burn, preventing fires like the Hermit's Peak blaze from ever igniting.
It's the first and really reliable 3D fire propagation model that's on the market. And we're really the only company directly involved with the labs to take that data and build these visualizers.
Los Alamos National Labs says that the key to reducing more wildfires are prescribed burns. With decades, even centuries of underbrush accumulating throughout the country, clearing out kindling in our national forests is one of the best ways to prevent disaster.
There's communities who are saying, no, you're not burning down my trees. That's part of my property over here. But if we can actually show that community and say, well, here's what happens if one little ember goes up near your house is gone. It's a lot different discussion that we can start having with people if we can plan ahead of time, as opposed to the disaster happens and we say, well, it would have been great if we had a tool. Well, we have a tool. That's what we're saying is today, this tool exists and we're now able to start that increase in prescribed burning across the nation that really needs to happen.
SciVista says that they can create data-based virtual environments for a variety of applications, including architecture and planning, space exploration, and even nuclear fusion. Coming up after the break, we are headed to Chimayo, where the northern New Mexico crop of chili is expanding far beyond their soil and acequias to the final frontier. And later, take a ride through one of the most prolific filming locations in the state in the next chapter under new ownership. New Mexico Frontiers will be right back.
Veris Research is the title sponsor of New Mexico Frontiers.
Veris Research was founded on the idea to have a culture and an environment where talented people could come to pursue their passions. If you are passionate about technology and want to make a difference, join our team at Veris Research. Let's create solutions that matter.
Chimayo chili differs in many ways from hatch chili, due in large part to the soil, the water, and the seeds in the northern New Mexico town. But it's also the first chili crop grown in space, and hopefully not the last. We spoke with one farmer who was sharing his family tradition of chili, which now has its sights on extraterrestrial cultivation.
New Mexico's beloved green chili crop is recognized nationwide. You can see the pride everywhere, even on our license plates. And thanks to an enterprising plant scientist, it's even famous in the final frontier.
NASA launched our seeds up on a SpaceX rocket. The Hatchtronauts, self-described Hatchtronauts, grew the first peppers in space, and all the kids and everybody around the world helped us do it. It was really awesome.
Española native Jacob Torres was an intern with NASA in 2021. At the time, one of their missions was to grow fruit in space. And seeing an opportunity to link his past to his future, Torres offered up New Mexico's iconic crop for zero-gravity cultivation. But he needed seeds to provide the space agency, and often farmers are protective of their valuable seedlings. That's where Fidel Martinez entered the picture.
I grew up planting chili all my life, and corn, everything you can think in the farm.
Martinez's Chimayo chili seeds are multi-generational, with decades of cultivation learned from his grandparents, who also served as his parents after his mother passed away at childbirth.
It's a sweeter taste, and it's like an orange color, beautiful color.
Martinez doesn't sell his Chimayo seeds or his crop. After he and his wife retired from Los Alamos National Labs, chili farming remained a passion project, giving his sweet and spicy chilies to friends and family. So Martinez supplied his chili seeds to the experiment, which proved to work successfully after trial and error in the lab.
He gave us this big bag of seeds, and we took them back to Kennedy Space Center. We started growing them in the lab. And then ultimately, because I had so many of them, I used them in the chili challenge to send to students and stuff.
And that led Torres to develop the Space Chili Grow a Pepper Challenge, which encourages kids around the country to try differing methods to grow the hardy crop. Students request the seeds and experiment kit online, choose the method they wish to grow their crop, then post the results on the program's social media.
I'm really happy to help the kids to try and keep that tradition going. Like I'm keeping the tradition 4 generations back, and I'm hoping one of those kids takes over for me and for all, you know.
And now that the Martinez Chimayo chili has been successful in the lab, in experiments throughout the U.S., Antarctica, and the International Space Station, what's next?
The new goal is to grow chili on the moon. It was the first fruit in space. It's proven that it would grow really well, so I think that it should be grown on the moon as well.
The space-aged goal can also teach us about growing other crops in harsh conditions, which could serve purposes in orbit as well as here on Earth.
It's going to take the next generation to come up behind me to pick up where I left off. So this outreach is all about that, to just inspire students to say, hey, look, I'm the kid from Española. I did it. You guys can too, and let's get you started right now.
You can find the Space Chili Challenge on Facebook and request your own chili growing experiment to participate in the program. After the break, we are talking with an Albuquerque Academy senior that turned tragedy into an opportunity to help peers dealing with mental health issues. And later, from John Wayne to Tom Hanks, the legendary Eve's Movie Ranch is opening up for an all-new project, and it may be starring you. New Mexico Frontiers will be right back. An Albuquerque Academy senior is taking proactive steps to help his peers with mental well-being by developing an online project through UNM. And as we learned, the idea came from a tragedy that happened 4 years ago, a tragedy that might have been prevented.
Fewer than 4% of Boy Scouts will ever reach the rank of Eagle Scout. Among that 4% is Albuquerque Academy senior Evan Chang.
It requires a support network from your troop, your parents, and just fellow troop members to stick with you all the way.
After working nearly 4 years to earn the rank, Evan found himself ready to dive into his Eagle project. And unfortunately, he didn't have to look far for inspiration. During his freshman year of high school, Evan lost a member of his varsity soccer team after the student took his own life, the second suicide the school had suffered within the same year.
I noticed that everyone in our school felt really at a loss, and we were still grieving, and I just wanted to think of some way that we could heal our community and also promote some positive message. And so I thought of it and okay, what if I do something involving suicide prevention and make something beautiful out of it?
The first part of Evan's project was to create a large suicide prevention ribbon at the Academy using a collage of tiles on which students could share their sentiments of what inspires joy.
I gotta say about 450 students did that at our school, and then I had my troop assemble that and put it on one of our walls at our school. And that was the Eagle project. And then from there I was like, well, what else can I do?
And the answer was here, at UNM's Project Echo.
The ECHO model is a model of professional learning where experts and people in the front line of all sorts of areas come together to share their expertise. In this all teach all learn model, we change the way that people practice in their professional areas.
Project Echo employs the power of online learning to collaborate with colleagues, teachers, and students anywhere on the globe.
In October of 2023, Evan began an internship with ECHO and envisioned a project where other Scout leaders could learn to connect with their troops about mental health. Dr. Kimothy Kane, an associate professor of child-adolescent psychiatry at UNM, was intrigued by Evan's initiative.
I was at a leadership meeting and I met his father, and his father learned that I was a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I was sitting next to another colleague who's a child and adolescent psychiatrist. His father leaned over and said, my son is doing this project and he's really excited about it and looking for a mentor.
Dr. Kane stepped in to mentor Evan as he developed the 3-module presentation. The idea was that he could talk with him about understanding mental well-being, regulating emotions, and emotional intelligence.
It was so exciting to work with another teenager. I have teenage boys. At the time, my youngest was 17 and getting ready to graduate and go off to college.
While Evan had help from faculty and administration with Project Echo, the content was largely driven by the Academy senior, inspired by his past to help the future of his fellow teens.
I think once you hear about someone that commits suicide, you'll have all these sorts of judgments and feelings.
Evan's goal with the Mental Wellbeing in Adolescence program is to empower students, teachers, and parents with the skills to have an open flow of communication, hopefully preventing the tragedy he experienced in his young life from ever happening again.
I hope they can, really understand that everyone's going through stuff, and so how do we move beyond it, and how do we, utilize all our emotions to feel the best we can.
Evan has applied to a number of colleges and hopes to take this experience into his future career. He says it has inspired him to think about public policy and psychology with the goal of taking the program to states across America. Coming up, New Mexico's star turn as the wild frontier in movies and TV shows is thanks in large part to this quiet ranch outside of Santa Fe. What's playing next at the Mortensen Eves Movie Ranch when New Mexico Frontiers returns? A huge part of a film's budget can be eaten up by building out elaborate sets, especially if we're talking about Westerns. However, New Mexico has a number of functional Western towns that are just about camera ready for any movie rolling into town. And one of the state's most storied locations is now under the ownership of a man who knows a thing or two about the genre. It's like a scene out of an Old West motion picture.
The High Plains drifter in this story rides into town, saving it from time and the elements.
I always love just coming over here and riding through the town. It's just a great feeling. Everybody feels so good going through here, seeing it.
The walls of this hamlet have seen the likes of Tom Hanks, Emilio Estevez, Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Peter Fonda, and the Duke himself, John Wayne.
That's when school really begins.
Lots of great actors have been here. Johnny Cash has shot here, and Kirk Douglas, and it's been pretty iconic.
So iconic that cowboy, saddlesmith, and stuntman Clint Mortensen had to lay claim on the property, better known by locals and film producers as the Eves Movie Ranch.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a more storied location than the Eves Movie Ranch when it comes to New Mexico filmmaking. In fact, some people would argue that this very filming location is responsible for the multi-million-dollar industry the state now enjoys.
The ranch was originally constructed for the James Stewart Henry Fonda Western, The Cheyenne Social Club, in 1969.
Could you direct me to the Cheyenne Social Club? How dare you!
J.W. Eves was tasked with building out the location that features interior and exterior set pieces, including everything you need in an Old West town, a saloon, a general store, and a sheriff's office, among others. And since that film's release in 1970, Eves has served as the set for such films as The Cowboys, Every Which Way But Loose, Young Guns 2, Easy Rider, Wyatt Earp, Magnificent Seven, Buster Scruggs, Sundance, The Staircase.
Besides the whiskey, I think will require a little respect.
You get the picture. After J.W.'s passing in 2001, the property was inherited by his son, Craig. However, a diversity of projects in the younger Eves' life made upkeep on the movie ranch tough. Seeing an opportunity to live out a childhood dream and restore the legendary set, Mortensen offered to purchase the property last year, taking ownership just 6 months ago.
I started out just never thought I'd ever work in movies at all. I come from South Dakota, and I guess I lived in Paris, France. I was working in a Wild West show over there for Euro Disney in Paris, France. I was a performer at Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, and then I moved back here and never expected to work in movies.
Clint first worked as a livestock wrangler on 310 to Yuma. The filmmaking bug sunk its teeth into him, taking on various jobs with horses, building custom saddles and props, and ultimately landing in front of the camera as an actor and stunt double for Taylor Lautner on the Netflix comedy The Ridiculous Six.
Sometimes I'll be working on a movie and they go, we need these certain spurs or this hat band, we need something to match this, and I go home and make that at night and bring it and work on the movie the next day.
But movies aren't the only thing Mortensen hopes to bring to the ranch. Now called the Mortensen Eves Movie Ranch, Clint says that he is opening up the property for private parties, special events, photo shoots, and weddings, inviting the community to experience the cinematic history and magic of a destination locked in a bygone era of the American frontier.
I gotta pinch myself in the wrist. I mean, like, it's so just neat. Everybody has a good feeling. When they bring people here, they just, their childhood comes out and they just feel so good just looking around and stuff. It's just a cool feeling.
Mortensen and his team say that they will be adding links for the community to voice their ideas about the ranch on their new website, which should be online later this year. That's going to do it for this episode of New Mexico Frontiers. For more information and other episodes, just head over to krqe.com. Thanks for joining us.